This is going to be part 2 video. We're going to talk about game object hierarchies and why they are really broken. And we will be using Unity for the example. So one thing that we see is we see the scene, and let's just first play the game to show you what's happening. A simple game, a bomb that explodes, you can shoot some stuff. And then there's these little mini games, like you can have the aim trainer, there's the shooting range with some moving targets, and then this bomb balooza that I created. Well, what we can do is if we look at kind of how everything's structured, obviously there's a lot of stuff that has hierarchies to it, but we can kind of go further in depth. Let's look at the camera. Let's do the player character controller. Obviously we have this entity right here. Let's pull it up. Well, what's unique about this is that if we actually see it, we actually have four separate game objects that are all used inside of this generic player character controller. We have the actual player object, which is the actual capsule. We have the orientation, which is where it's facing, and then the camera position. So the camera is actually separate from the floor or the actual player, and then we actually have a ground check where it's actually at the very bottom and it checks to see if you're in collision with the ground. So for example, in your 2D game, you could have an empty game object that literally just sees if you're in collision with the ground or if you're in collision with the side of the wall, and this will could really simplify your logic of, hey, how should I do this? Oh, it's just as simple as doing a game object and seeing if a floor enters it, and then boom, you're on the ground. So it's very strong with kind of just this very simple thing, but obviously we have these giant little mini games. If every single mini game was its own individual game object, I would have to move every single thing over here and make sure everything's aligned right. But with everything being under this parent shooting game object, I can now just move the X. This is the shooting range, sorry. So I can just move this. Say I want to move it closer. Now I can move everything closer, further away. Say I wanted to make everything over on that side. It would just be as simple as going to aim trainer, rotating it in 90 or negative 90 degrees on the Y, and pulling it back. It's as simple as that. So now everything, including the logic, everything is now just over there. So that's really one kind of very cool thing you can just do with so there's both the aesthetic of moving everything and then the kind of logical stuff. But if we even go into like more detailed models, so we see there's an imported asset called corridor. So if we just go to corridor, obviously this is the ground. So, but you see, if we actually look at the hierarchy, it's actually a very in-depth hierarchy where you have the top part, but then you have the lattice and then a secondary form of it. For your floor, you also have the same thing. One with the elevated stuff and one that's not, has the like little details. Same with the windows. You have the actual window, you have the entire thing, and then you kind of have the one where it's outlined with the window. So there's like, even with models and that stuff, that's very very important still. And what you can do is, if you have many of the small stuff, is that now you can actually combine them together to make unique game objects. That's one really useful thing about hierarchy. So if we wanted a projector, we see we have a particle system. So one good thing about this is that since the particle system is a child, if I ever move it, the particle system automatically follows everything. So um, it's just overall very powerful. So like another useful case is with the portals. We don't really want to collide with the sides of the portal to actually teleport. So what you do is you have the three cubes. Let's do this. You have the three cubes, and then you have this invisible center game object where if you only touch the center, then you teleport. Um, let's now look at kind of scale and transform. Obviously, we looked at scale, but what we can do is if we go to the shooting range, if we adjust the parent scale, so say for example, it is 2, now everything is up by 2. If we go back to 1, everything is up by 1. If we adjust, so, and you see that it also adjusts the position. So if we go into there and we go back up to 2, you see how it actually updated the position based off the scale. So that's kind of the another thing you have to account for. And that's why a lot of the time, many popular things have a parent game object that's empty so that everything underneath it is a scale of 1 and then kind of works as the hierarchy. What else? Is there anything? Yeah, if we look at this bomb game object that group created, we actually see that. Wait, let's do this. So we actually see that there's the obvious head, there's the wick, there's the wick, and then particle system. All those are different things, and you can actually make things distinct. So if you hit the what you could do is if you collide with the wick, you activate the particle system, but if you collide with the head or body, it just blows up. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with this hierarchy stuff as well that um, explains a lot of um, kind of really helps you with a lot of stuff. Um, Obviously, this is kind of prioritizing hierarchies, and I think I got the it's relatively good. Um, yeah, I'm planning to show more Unity stuff as time goes on, just because hopefully, if you take advanced game programming, you can kind of use this in the back of your mind and kind of see where we're building towards. Um, but yeah, that should be it.